What if I told you that your grandparents grew 3 times more food in the same space you're using now, without fancy fertilizers, without industrial pesticides, and without breaking their backs? They had a secret that the modern gardening industry buried 70 years ago because it threatened the entire business model of monoculture farming. They planted vegetables together, not in sterile rows like a factory, but in communities where each plant protected, fed, and strengthened the others. 12 specific combinations that transformed ordinary garden beds into biological powerhouses. Tomatoes that never got aphids because basil stood guard. Corn that fed beans that fed squash in a perfect triangle of mutual support. Strawberries that tripled their yield because garlic kept every pest and disease away. Today, you'll discover exactly which plants your ancestors planted together, the precise distances and arrangements they used, the scientific reasons these partnerships work at a molecular level, and the critical mistakes that will destroy your harvest if you plant the wrong neighbors together. Stay until the end, because what you learn will completely overturn everything modern agriculture taught you about growing food. Let's start with the brutal truth that nobody in the gardening industry wants you to know. Walk into any garden center, open any modern gardening book, and you'll see the same advice repeated like gospel. Plant in rows. Space your tomatoes 3 feet apart in straight lines. Keep your carrots in their own bed. Separate everything by type, by family, by variety. This is how professionals do it, they say. This is efficient. This is scientific. And it's completely wrong. Not wrong because it doesn't work, but wrong because it's designed for industrial agriculture, not for home gardens. It's designed to make harvesting with machines easier. It's designed to make chemical application uniform. It's designed for profit, not for your success. Your grandparents didn't have rows. They had beds. Dense, chaotic, beautiful beds where 6 different vegetables grew intertwined in patterns that looked random, but were actually calculated by generations of observation. And here's what the industry doesn't want you to realize. Those messy traditional beds produced more food per square foot than any modern monoculture row system ever could. Why? Because plants are not solitary organisms. They evolved in communities. In nature, you never see a field of just corn. You see dozens of species growing together, each filling a niche, each supporting the system. When you isolate plants in rows, you're fighting nature. When you plant them together correctly, nature fights for you. But here's the catch. You can't just throw random plants together and hope for the best. Companion planting is a science, even though our ancestors practiced it as art. Some combinations are synergistic, creating yields far beyond what either plant could produce alone. Other combinations are antagonistic, where plants actively poison each other through root exudates or compete so fiercely that both fail. The difference between a thriving garden and a dying one often comes down to knowing which is which. Let's begin with the most famous partnership, the one that fed entire civilizations for thousands of years. The 3 sisters: corn, beans, and squash. This is not folklore. This is engineering at its finest, designed by indigenous peoples who understood plant biology better than any modern agronomist. Here's how it works. You plant corn first, in small hills or mounds, about 18 inches apart in a rough grid pattern. When the corn is 6 inches tall, you plant beans around each stalk, 4 beans per corn plant. When the beans sprout, you plant squash in between the corn mounds, 1 squash plant for every 4 corn stalks. The corn grows tall, providing a living trellis for the beans to climb. The beans, being legumes, have root nodules filled with bacteria that fix atmospheric nitrogen. They take nitrogen from the air and convert it into ammonia, which leaches into the soil and feeds the corn. Corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder, constantly depleting the soil. Beans replenish what corn takes. Meanwhile, the squash spreads its massive leaves across the ground, creating a living mulch that shades out weeds, retains moisture, and keeps the soil cool. The prickly hairs on squash leaves deter raccoons and other pests from climbing the corn to steal ears. But there's more. The spacing creates microhabitats. The corn creates vertical structure. The beans create mid-level density. The squash creates ground cover. Together, they form a three-dimensional ecosystem that uses every layer of space. Insects that would devastate a monoculture cornfield get confused in this diversity. They can't find their target plants as easily. Diseases that spread rapidly through identical crops can't jump between different species. And the yield from one Three Sisters mound can be equivalent to 3 separate plots of corn, beans, and squash grown in rows. The exact spacing matters. Corn mounds should be 3 feet apart, center to center. This gives the squash room to spread. Plant corn seeds 6 inches apart within each mound, 4 to 5 seeds per mound, then thin to the 3 strongest. When corn reaches 6 inches, plant 4 bean seeds around each corn stalk, about 6 inches from the base. 2 weeks later, plant 1 squash seed in the center of every 4 corn mound square. This creates a living tapestry. Now let's talk about a combination that revolutionizes vegetable gardens, but almost nobody practices anymore: tomatoes, basil, and carrots. This is a 3-way partnership where each member brings something essential. Tomatoes are the anchor, the tall central plant. Basil is planted at the base of each tomato, 1 basil plant for every tomato. Carrots fill the gaps between tomato plants, sown thickly as a living mulch. Here's the science. Basil releases volatile compounds into the air, primarily eugenol and linalool, that repel aphids, whiteflies, and tomato hornworms. These insects navigate by scent. When basil saturates the air with its aroma, tomato pests can't locate tomato plants. It's chemical camouflage, but basil does more. Its roots exude compounds that suppress soil-borne fungi, particularly fusarium and verticillium, the 2 main wilts that kill tomato plants. In studies, tomatoes grown with basil show 50% fewer wilt infections than tomatoes grown alone. Carrots play a different role. Their fine, feathery foliage covers the soil surface, reducing evaporation and keeping roots cool. Carrot roots grow deep, breaking up compacted soil and creating channels that tomato roots follow. This gives tomatoes access to water and nutrients deeper in the soil profile. In return, tomatoes provide afternoon shade for carrots, which bolt and turn bitter in extreme heat. The partial shade from tomato leaves keeps carrots sweet even in midsummer. The spacing. Plant tomatoes 3 feet apart in a triangular or offset pattern, not rows. Plant 1 basil seedling 6 inches from the base of each tomato, on the south or west side so it gets full sun. Sow carrot seeds heavily in all the spaces between tomatoes, thinning later to 2 inches apart. The carrots will be ready to harvest before the tomatoes bush out fully, creating a succession of crops from the same space. Next is a partnership that saves strawberries from disaster: garlic and strawberries. Most people plant strawberries in neat rows and watch them get decimated by pests, fungal diseases, and viruses. But when you interplant garlic cloves between strawberry plants, everything changes. Garlic releases allicin and other sulfur compounds from its roots and leaves. These compounds have powerful antifungal and antibacterial properties. Strawberries, which are highly susceptible to gray mold, powdery mildew, and root rot, become remarkably resistant when surrounded by garlic. But garlic does more. It repels aphids, spider mites, and strawberry weevils, the 3 main insect pests of strawberries. The scent confuses them. And here's the magic: garlic doesn't compete with strawberries. Garlic roots grow deep and vertically. Strawberry roots are shallow and spreading. They occupy different soil zones. Garlic is dormant in summer when strawberries need maximum resources. Strawberries go dormant in winter when garlic is actively growing. They take turns using the space. The method: plant strawberries 12 inches apart in a zigzag pattern. In fall, push garlic cloves into the soil between each strawberry plant, 4 to 6 inches from the crown, 6 inches deep. The garlic will sprout, grow all winter, and be ready to harvest in late spring, just as strawberries begin fruiting. After harvesting garlic, the space remains protected by residual sulfur compounds in the soil, and you can replant new garlic cloves in fall. It's a perpetual cycle of protection. Have you ever planted vegetables together like this, or have you always stuck to separate rows? Now, we come to a combination that solves one of the biggest challenges in vegetable gardening: onions and beets. Most gardeners struggle with beets. They germinate poorly, grow slowly, attract leaf miners, and produce small roots. But when you plant onions with beets, beets transform into vigorous, problem-free crops. Why? Onions release sulfur compounds that repel leaf miners, the fly larvae that tunnel through beet leaves and destroy photosynthesis. Without leaf miners, beets can grow uninterrupted. More importantly, onions and beets have perfectly complementary nutrient needs. Onions are light feeders that require minimal nitrogen, but lots of phosphorus and potassium. Beets are moderate feeders that need balanced nutrients. When planted together in rich soil, beets take the nitrogen they need while leaving phosphorus and potassium for onions. There's no competition because they're feeding on different elements. And onion roots are fibrous and shallow, while beet roots are tap roots going deep. Different root architectures mean they're mining different soil layers. The technique: plant onion sets or seedlings in a grid, 6 inches apart in all directions. 2 weeks later, sow beet seeds in the exact center of each square, formed by 4 onion plants. As beets germinate and grow, they'll fill the spaces between onions. Harvest onions first, when tops fall over. This leaves beets with full space to finish sizing up. 1 bed, 2 complete harvests, 0 pest issues. Let's discuss a combination that doubles potato yields while eliminating the worst potato pests: potatoes and horseradish. This one sounds strange, but the chemistry is undeniable. Horseradish roots produce isothiocyanates, the same compounds that make it spicy. These compounds leach into surrounding soil and act as a biofumigant. They kill soil-borne potato diseases like scab and blackleg. They repel Colorado potato beetles and wireworms, the 2 most destructive potato pests. But here's the critical detail. You don't plant horseradish among potatoes randomly. You plant it as a barrier around the potato patch. Horseradish is aggressive and will invade the potato bed if planted inside, so you create a living fence. Dig a trench 1 foot deep around your potato bed. Plant horseradish root cuttings every 2 feet in this trench. The horseradish will grow into a dense barrier that no beetle will cross. The root exudates will diffuse into the potato bed from the edges, creating a protective zone. And when you harvest potatoes in fall, you also harvest some horseradish roots. 2 crops from 1 effort. The horseradish stays in place year after year, getting stronger and more protective. It's a permanent investment that pays dividends forever. Another forgotten partnership: cabbage, dill, and celery. Cabbage family plants, all the brassicas, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, are devastated by cabbage worms, aphids, and flea beetles. Industrial agriculture sprays insecticides weekly. Traditional gardens planted dill and celery between every cabbage. Dill attracts parasitic wasps that lay eggs inside cabbage worms, killing them from within. Celery releases pheromones that confuse cabbage moths so they can't find cabbage to lay eggs on. Together, dill and celery create a shield. The setup: plant cabbage 18 inches apart. Sow dill seeds in clusters 6 inches from each cabbage plant, thinning to 3 strongest seedlings per cluster. Plant celery seedlings in between cabbage plants, filling gaps. The dill grows tall and feathery, creating vertical structure. Celery grows thick and bushy, creating ground cover. Cabbage fills the middle layer. It's a 3-tier fortress that pests can't penetrate. If you're learning something valuable here, hit that subscribe button and like this video. We're uncovering gardening wisdom that's been deliberately hidden from you. Let's examine a pairing that increases both yields: lettuce and radish. Radishes germinate in 3 days. Lettuce takes 7 to 10. When you mix radish seeds with lettuce seeds and broadcast them together, radishes sprout first and break the soil crust, making it easier for lettuce to emerge. Radishes also grow fast and are harvested in 3 to 4 weeks, right when lettuce is getting established. This removes competition exactly when lettuce needs space. Meanwhile, radish roots aerate the soil and create channels that lettuce roots exploit. But there's a subtler benefit. Radishes attract flea beetles, drawing them away from lettuce. Flea beetles prefer radish leaves. They'll feast on radish foliage, which is expendable since you're growing radish for roots, and leave lettuce untouched. Radishes become sacrificial decoys. And when you harvest radishes, the disturbed soil releases nutrients that feed the remaining lettuce. The method: mix radish and lettuce seeds in a bowl. Roughly 1 radish seed for every 5 lettuce seeds. Broadcast the mixture over prepared soil, rake lightly, and water. When radishes are ready, pull them, creating perfect spacing for lettuce to mature. 1 sowing, 2 harvests, and lettuce that grows better than it ever did alone. Now we talk about a controversial one: cucumbers and sunflowers. Cucumbers are vining plants that sprawl across the ground, taking enormous space. But when you plant sunflowers first, in a grid, cucumbers climb the sunflower stalks like living trellises. This saves space and produces cleaner cucumbers that hang in the air instead of rotting on wet soil. Sunflowers provide shade for cucumber roots, which hate hot soil. And cucumber vines create a canopy that shades out weeds around sunflower bases. The science is deeper. Sunflowers are allelopathic. They release compounds that inhibit certain weeds but don't affect cucumbers. And cucumber roots exude citric acid and other organic acids that solubilize phosphorus in soil, making it available to sunflowers. They feed each other indirectly through soil chemistry. The technique: plant sunflowers 3 feet apart in rows, with rows 4 feet apart. When sunflowers are 1 foot tall, plant cucumber seeds in hills between sunflower plants, 1 hill per sunflower. As cucumbers vine, train them onto sunflower stalks. You'll need to guide the initial attachment, but once they grab hold, they'll climb naturally. Harvest cucumbers from vertical plants, and later harvest sunflower seeds from the same space. Here's a powerful but delicate pairing: peppers and spinach. Peppers grow slowly and don't fill their space until midsummer. Spinach is a cool season crop that grows fast in spring but bolts in heat. When you plant spinach around pepper seedlings in early spring, spinach matures and is harvested before peppers need the space. Meanwhile, spinach shades the soil and keeps pepper roots cool during late spring heat waves. This prevents blossom drop, a common pepper problem when soil gets too hot before plants are established. But you must time it correctly. Plant peppers after last frost, but while soil is still cool. Immediately sow spinach seeds in a circle around each pepper, 6 inches from the stem. Spinach will germinate in the cool soil, grow rapidly, and be ready to harvest in 4 to 5 weeks. Cut spinach leaves, leaving roots in place. The decaying roots add nitrogen right at the pepper root zone. By the time peppers start setting fruit, spinach is gone, but its benefits remain. Another classic that's been forgotten: corn and pumpkins. But not in the Three Sisters configuration. This is a different system. Plant corn in blocks, not rows, for proper pollination. 4 rows of corn, each row 4 feet from the next, plants 1 foot apart within rows. When corn is knee-high, plant pumpkin seeds in the alleys between corn rows. As pumpkins vine, they spread under the corn canopy. Corn provides support if pumpkins want to climb, and pumpkins provide ground cover that prevents erosion and retains moisture in the corn root zone. The key is timing. Corn must be established before pumpkins, or pumpkins will swamp seedling corn. But pumpkins must go in before corn tassels, so they have time to establish before corn shades them too much. There's a sweet spot, usually when corn is 2 to 3 feet tall, where pumpkin planting succeeds. Now we must discuss the dangerous combinations, the ones that will destroy your garden if you don't know to avoid them. Tomatoes and fennel is the most toxic pairing possible. Fennel secretes a compound called anethole from its roots. Anethole inhibits the growth of almost every other plant. Tomatoes planted near fennel will stunt, yellow, and produce almost nothing. The same applies to beans, peppers, and most vegetables. Fennel must be isolated, grown alone, far from anything else. Similarly, onions and peas are enemies. Onions release sulfur compounds that inhibit the nitrogen-fixing bacteria in pea root nodules. Without these bacteria, peas can't get nitrogen from the air and starve. You'll see pale, weak pea plants that produce no pods. Never plant alliums, onions, garlic, leeks near legumes like peas, beans, or lentils. They're chemically incompatible. Another bad combination, carrots and parsnip. Both are root crops in the same family. They attract the same pests, carrot rust flies, and the same diseases. When planted together, pests and diseases build up to catastrophic levels. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket. Diversity requires planting different families together, not different species of the same family. Potatoes and tomatoes, despite being useful in other combinations, should never be planted together. They're both nightshades, susceptible to identical diseases, particularly late blight. Late blight can jump from tomatoes to potatoes, or vice versa, destroying both crops in days. Keep them separated by at least 20 feet, or better yet, in different parts of the garden entirely. Now let's get historical, because understanding why we lost this knowledge is crucial to reclaiming it. 200 years ago, every farm and garden practiced companion planting by default. Not because they read about it in books, but because they observed. They saw that cabbages grown near tomatoes got eaten by worms. They saw that cabbages grown near dill didn't. They noticed that corn planted alone fell over in wind, but corn planted with beans stayed upright. They observed beans planted after corn in the same soil grew better than beans planted alone. They didn't know about nitrogen fixation, but they saw the results. This knowledge was transmitted orally, from grandparent to parent to child, in every farming culture worldwide. In Europe, peasant gardens were a riot of diversity. In Asia, rice paddies were integrated with fish, ducks, and vegetables in complex systems. In the Americas, indigenous peoples had refined companion planting to an art over thousands of years. It was universal wisdom. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Farming became mechanized. To run machines efficiently, you need straight rows of identical plants. Monoculture was born. And with monoculture came pests and diseases at scales never seen before. So chemicals were developed, fertilizers to replace natural soil fertility, pesticides to control insects and weeds. The entire system became dependent on inputs. Agricultural universities, funded by chemical companies, taught this new way as the only way. Traditional methods were dismissed as primitive, inefficient, old-fashioned. A generation of farmers was educated to believe that diversity was chaos and monoculture was progress. And that's what they passed to their children and grandchildren. Within 50 years, companion planting went from common knowledge to forgotten lore. But here's the thing, monoculture only works with massive chemical inputs. In a home garden, you can't afford to spray pesticides every week. You can't afford to fertilize heavily every month. And you don't have machines that require uniform rows. So the industrial model fails in home gardens. That's why modern gardeners struggle. They're using a system designed for something entirely different. When you return to companion planting, you're not going backwards. You're going sideways, to a system that was always superior for small-scale growing, but was abandoned for economic reasons that don't apply to you. You're reclaiming a technology that works with nature instead of against it. Let's get specific about implementation. You can't just rip out your entire garden and start over. That's overwhelming. Instead, add 1 or 2 companion combinations this year. Next year, add more. Gradually transform your garden from monoculture rows to polyculture beds. Start with the easiest and most proven combinations. Tomatoes with basil, beans with corn, onions with beets. These are foolproof. Once you see them succeed, confidence will grow, and you'll experiment with more complex pairings. Layout matters enormously. Traditional gardens used beds 4 feet wide with paths between. 4 feet is the maximum distance you can reach from either side without stepping into the bed. Within that 4-foot width, plants are arranged in patterns that maximize density while respecting spacing requirements. Triangular or hexagonal patterns fit more plants than square grids. Picture a honeycomb. That's the ideal. Mark out beds with string and stakes. Amend soil if needed, but companion planting works in average soil better than monoculture, so you don't need perfection. Plan your combinations on paper first. Draw the bed to scale. Mark where each plant type goes, respecting spacing and succession timing. Some plants go in early spring, others late spring, some summer. Stagger plantings, so you're always harvesting something. Watering changes too. In monoculture rows, you water the row. In polyculture beds, you water the whole bed evenly. Drip irrigation or soaker hoses work best, delivering water at soil level where roots access it, not on leaves where it promotes disease. Mulching becomes critical. A thick layer of straw, leaves, or compost over the soil surface between plants retains moisture, suppresses weeds, and feeds soil life. In a diverse planting, mulch integrates everything into a unified ecosystem. Weeding is different. You can't till between plants in a dense polyculture. You hand weed or mulch heavily enough that weeds can't establish. But here's the secret. In a properly designed companion planting, there are no bare spots for weeds to colonize. Every inch of soil is occupied by desirable plants or mulch. Weeds need light and space. Deny them both, and they vanish. Pest management becomes passive. You're not spraying. You're not hand-picking bugs for hours. The system manages pests through diversity. Predator insects that eat pests need pollen and nectar from flowers. When you integrate flowering herbs like dill, cilantro, and basil into vegetable beds, you create habitat for beneficial insects. Ladybugs, lacewings, parasitic wasps all arrive and set up colonies. They patrol your plants, eating aphids and caterpillars before populations explode. Disease resistance improves because plants aren't stressed. Stress makes plants vulnerable. When you provide optimal conditions through companion planting, proper spacing, good soil, adequate water, plants activate their natural defenses. They produce more of the compounds that resist diseases and pests. It's like a healthy immune system in humans. Prevention beats treatment. Soil health improves year after year. In monoculture, soil degrades. The same crop takes the same nutrients, exhausting specific elements while leaving others unused. Pests and diseases build up in soil. In polyculture, different plants have different nutrient needs and different root structures. Some plants add nutrients, like legumes fixing nitrogen. Others break up compacted layers. Others bring up deep minerals. Together, they balance the system. And as soil improves, everything gets easier. Healthier soil retains water better, needs less fertilizer, supports more beneficial organisms. You enter a positive feedback loop where each year is better than the last, instead of the negative spiral of monoculture where each year requires more inputs just to maintain declining yields. Here's something profound that traditional gardeners understood, but we've forgotten. A garden is not a collection of plants. It's a community. Each plant is a member with a role. Some are producers, creating biomass and food. Some are protectors, repelling pests or attracting beneficials. Some are nurses, improving soil or providing shade. When you design with this mindset, you stop thinking about individual plants and start thinking about relationships, partnerships, synergies. This changes everything. You're not asking, how much space does a tomato need? You're asking, what does a tomato give to the community, and what does it need in return? It gives fruit and shade. It needs nutrients, water, pest protection. Basil provides pest protection. Carrots provide ground cover and soil improvement. Together, they form a unit that's stronger than any could be alone. Your grandparents didn't call it companion planting. They didn't use scientific terms, but they understood it in their bones. They knew that nature doesn't do monocultures. They knew that mixing was better than separating. And and they produced harvests that modern gardeners, with all our technology and information, can't match, because they were working with principles that are older and deeper than any industrial system. The question isn't whether companion planting works. The evidence is overwhelming, both historical and scientific. The question is whether you're ready to unlearn what modern gardening taught you and relearn what your ancestors knew. It requires a shift in thinking. It requires accepting that more complexity can mean less work, that apparent chaos can be deeper order. But once you make that shift, once you see your first Three Sisters mound, producing buckets of food from a few square feet, once you harvest beets and onions from the same bed without a single pest issue, once you watch basil turn your tomato plants into fortresses that bugs can't touch, you'll understand. You'll see why this knowledge was suppressed, because it makes you independent. It makes you successful without buying products, without depending on systems, without needing experts. And that independence is dangerous to industries built on your dependence, which is exactly why you need it. So here's your action plan. This week, identify one bed in your garden for conversion. Next week, choose one companion combination to try. Start simple. Tomatoes and basil is perfect for beginners. Get the plants, prepare the bed, and plant according to the spacing I described. Then watch. Observe what happens. Notice how the basil smells when you water it, how that smell surrounds the tomatoes, how the insects react. Notice how the soil stays moist under the basil canopy. Notice at harvest time how your tomatoes compare to ones grown alone. That observation will teach you more than any book, and it will build the confidence to try more combinations next season. Within 3 years, your entire garden can be transformed into a productive polyculture that yields more food, needs less input, and practically takes care of itself. That's not exaggeration. That's the experience of everyone who commits to this path. But you have to start. Knowledge without action is useless. You now know 12 powerful combinations. You know the science behind why they work. You know the mistakes to avoid. The only question remaining is, will you use it? Your grandparents would want you to. They'd want you to reclaim this wisdom that kept them fed through wars, depressions, droughts, and every crisis they faced. They'd want you to stop struggling with pest and disease problems that have simple solutions. They'd want you to experience the abundance that comes from working with nature instead of fighting it. And in a world that seems increasingly uncertain, where supply chains break and prices rise and systems fail, having the knowledge to grow 3 times more food in your garden isn't just useful, it's essential, it's security, it's independence, it's power. So don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't tell yourself you'll try it next year. Start now, because every day you delay is a day your garden could be producing more, working better, giving you more return for less effort. Drop a comment below and tell me, which companion combination are you going to try first? Have you ever planted vegetables together, or have you always separated everything? And if this video opened your eyes to a whole new way of gardening, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell. Share this with anyone who gardens or wants to start, because this information needs to spread. It needs to reach everyone who's been told that gardening is hard, that pests are inevitable, that you need chemicals to succeed. They need to know there's another way, a better way, the way your grandparents did it. In the next video, we'll dive even deeper into traditional gardening wisdom that's been hidden from you. Secrets about soil, about seeds, about timing and techniques that will revolutionize how you grow food. You won't want to miss it. Until then, get out to your garden. Look at it with new eyes. See not separate plants, but potential partnerships. And start building the community that will feed you better than any monoculture ever could. The knowledge is yours now. The only question is what you'll do with it.